Hi, this is Ginger from My Sister Scrapper. Today I want to share a tutorial with you. I had a lot of people ask, and I apologize that it's taking me so long, but anyway, I've just apologized. So what we're going to do first, again, this is my G45 Safari Adventure mini album, where I took the idea of the 4x6 version of that project and made it larger. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I will tell you right now, this is probably not a beginner project. There's some different things that I'm going to do in the tutorial that I didn't do in this mini album, which I think will make it a little bit better, especially like for right here. See how these are kind of curling because they're too close to the edge. So we're going to trim that a little bit, 1/4 of an inch. But basically, I'm going to give you all of the measurements for the chipboard covers, the chipboard spine. I will actually make the binding system with you so you know how I did that. It's pretty easy. There's only 3 hinges. And then as far as the photo mats, I'm not going to give you the measurements there because it depends on what you want to put in there. You can put different things in there, and it's pretty easy to measure. You just stick your ruler in there and figure out, you know, what size you want it to be. But I will share all the measurements that you need to create all of the pages. And again, there's only 3 page units in here. I will forewarn you, it takes a lot of cardstock and a lot of adhesive to make this. So, but it's super cool, and this is my ginormous mini album. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So what you're going to need, I'm going to give you the measurements for the covers and the spine first. I use a medium weight chipboard. People ask where I get my chipboard. I buy it online at Amazon.com. I buy 12 by 12 sheets. They come in a pack of 25, and it's the graphics medium weight. So your spine piece is going to measure 3.5 by 5 3/4. Your front and back covers, you're going to need 2 pieces, and those are going to measure 8 3/4 by 5 3/4. Now, you cannot get all 3 of these out of one 12 by 12. You can, but your spine won't be this big, and you really need a bigger spine, especially if you want to add a lot of embellishments and stuff. As you can see on this one, I probably could have made my spine a little bit smaller, but once I don't want it to gap open, and once I get pictures and other things in here, I did a lot of thick embellishments with chipboard and all kinds of stuff. So you could make the spine a little bit smaller because you will have a 3 1/8 inch piece left from your 12 by 12 sheet that you could use for your spine. But these are the measurements that I used for that project, so that's what I'm going to share with you. Again, 3.5 by 5 3/4, 5 3/4 by 8 3/4, and you need 2 of those. So those are your chipboard covers. The piece you're going to need for your hinge binding is going to measure, and I'm going to use something that's not black so you can see it here, but it measures 8.5 by 5 1/4. Now our pages are 5.5 by 7.5, and so the opening is going to be 5.5 inches, the pocket to slip it down. But I like to make my hinge, because the pages are so bulky, I decided to make them a 1/4 inch smaller. So again, this is for your binding hinge is going to be 8.5 by 5 1/4. So you're going to put it in here, and we're only going to need 3 hinges, but we're going to start our first score line at 2 inches because I like a 2-inch wingspan because the pages are heavy. So we're going to go 2, 2.5, 3. Now I left 3/4 of an inch between my pages, so we're going to skip over to 3 1/4. That's our gusset right there. Now we need to make our hinge. So we got 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 5.5, 6, and 6.5. So we have 2 inches here and 2 inches here. So let's go through that again. We have 2, 2.5, 3, 3 3/4, 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 5.5, 6, and 6.5. Okay, that's going to be our binding. And I think you guys all know how to do this. You add your score tape and here, but we'll just show you really quick. I like to use the 3/8 of an inch score tape. You can use whatever adhesive you prefer. This is my personal choice. Again, adhesive is a personal choice. I like to face it this way, and I skip my first channel, and I like to put my score tape in the second channel. I'm going to skip my gusset and skip my first opening and then put it in here. I skip my gusset, this one, and add it in here. Okay. And I'm going to burnish my tape. And then I'm going to fold on that second score line, open it up, take my backing off, stick her down, and I'm going to fold this piece back and flip it over and fold my hinge back. So that's my first hinge. Again, I'm going to go ahead and fold on the score line that's closest to my tape. Pull the backing off and stick it down. Again, I'm going to fold this back, flip it over, and stand my hinge up. So now I have 2 hinges with my 3/4 of an inch gusset. And again, the last one, same thing, fold it. So this little hinge is super easy because you only have to do 3. Yay! And stick it in. Fold it back. And fold it this way. Okay, so there's your 3 hinges. Now you would add your score tape to both sides of your hinge, set it aside, and that's what you're going to attach to the spine of your book after you get your chipboard wrapped. Okay, so that's the binding for the ginormous mini album. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the measurements on how to make each of the pages. Again, there's 3 page units in here, and the original design was using a sheet of 12 by 12, 1 sheet of paper, but it makes a 4 by 6 mini album. I wanted a larger version, so I tried to figure it out, and I think I did okay, but we'll see. It turned out okay. Again, a couple things I could have done different. So just to make the pages, here's what you need for 1 page unit. You're going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 9 by 8.5. I have my little cheat sheet here because seriously, I had to think about this one a long time before I could get to work. So we have 9 inches here and we have 8.5 here. So that's 1 piece. You need another piece. Actually, to make 1 page unit, you need 2 pieces that are going to look like this, and those pieces are going to measure 5.5 by 11. So 11 by 5.5, and you need 2 of these, 1 for the front of the page and 1 for the back side of the page. And then you need 2 pieces that are going to measure 7.5 by 11. So you can use 8.5 by 11 paper. You will have some scraps left over. 7.5 by 11. So you need 2 of those. And then you need a smaller piece that's going to measure 6.5 by 3 1/4. Okay. And then you need 1 piece that's a 1-inch piece by 7 1/4. You should have a scrap left over from your paper just to match. It's just to make a little hinge, okay? And that piece is going to go at the bottom of this pocket right here to close it up. Now you don't have to use, no, it's not going to go right there. I'm sorry, it's going to go across the top here to close these 2 pages up. So it's a hinge. So even though our page is 7.5, I do make my hinge just a little bit shorter because I'm going to cut this off. We're going to trim this 1/4 inch, but we're still going to stick it in there. So I'm hoping that's going to work. So we're going to see. We're going to do it together. So we've got our pieces cut for this piece, and then this little add-on section. We've cut that. So we've cut 2 of those, 2 of these, and 1 of these, and 1 of these pieces back here. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to put it together. So that little 1-inch strip, put it in here and scored it a 1/2 inch. And you can leave it as long as it was and just make a, I like to do that a lot. I just went in and cut this one, but just go ahead and score it in half. Fold it on your score line. Set that aside. Okay, your two pieces that measure 5.5 by 11 are going to be the add-on pieces. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stick it in here at the 5.5, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch on both sides. Now it's easier for me to score on this side than over here because I'm right-handed, so I just put it and scored at 5 and flip it around and score it at 5. So I have a 1/2 inch score line on both sides. We're going to put it on the 11-inch side, and we're going to score at 1.5, 5.5, like that. Okay, so let's score the other piece exactly the same way. Again, we're going to score a 1/2 inch on both sides, so we have our 5.5 across the top. So 1/2 inch, I'm just going to score at 5, rotate it around, and score it at 5. Now, if you're left-handed, it's probably easier for you to score at a 1/2 inch and flip it around. So then rotate it to the 11, and we're scoring again at 1.5, 5.5. Okay, so now we're going to set those pieces aside because we're going to do all of our scoring first, and then we'll go back and do our cutting. The next piece we're going to score measures 8.5 by 9 inches. So on our 8.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch again. So we're going to do 1/2 inch here, flip it around, and 1/2 inch here. Put it on the 9-inch side, and we're going to score it in half at 4.5. Okay, so we only have one of these. That's all we need. So again, on the 8.5 side, we're going to score a 1/2 inch on both sides. And then we're going to put it on the 9-inch side and score at 4.5. Okay, we're going to set that one aside. Now we have two more pieces to score. And those measure 7.5 by 11. Okay, so on the 11-inch side, we're going to score at 5 inches and 10.5. We're going to do that to both pieces, 5 and 10.5. 5 and 10.5. Okay, so we're done with our scoreboard. We can put that away. Oops, no we're not. We got to score that little 3 1/4 by 6.5 piece. That one's pretty simple. Again, we're just going to score it on the 6.5 at a 1/2 inch on both sides. So a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. So I just scored it at 6, flipped it around, and scored it at 6. So those are all of our pieces. Now we can put our scoreboard away. So the first thing you want to do is you can use your paper trimmer, you can use your scissors. For the video, I'm going to try to use my scissors. I probably won't cut straight because I usually don't, but we're going to give it a whirl anyway. The first thing we'll do is that last piece that we scored, we're going to go ahead and just fold on those score lines. Okay. And make sure we burnish them really well. And then we're going to add our adhesive to our tabs on the back side, just like that. Okay, so that one's done. We just need one of those for every page unit. So if you're making the entire book, you would need 3 of these. Okay, now we're going to fold on these pieces here, which was the 7.5 by 11 that has the 2 score marks going this way. These pages are actually our flaps right here on this side, and it's our flap on the back side. And these are the ones that I'm thinking I want to trim, but we'll see how it works. So the first thing we want to do is we want to fold our top flap down because it's going to be a little bit shorter. Let me move this out of the way. And then we're going to go ahead and fold this bottom flap up, this little 1/2" tab right here. And we're going to wait till we get everything scored before we add our score tapes, so you know which pieces are going where and which side of your flap you need to put your tape on, because I can't remember. It's been a while. And then on the other piece, what we're going to do is we're going to fold that one just the opposite. So we're going to fold this piece down like this, like we did originally in the first one. But on our little hinge here, instead of folding it forward, we're going to fold it back this way. Okay. So we have one piece with the little bottom hinge folded back and one piece with the bottom hinge folded facing us. Okay, so we're done with that piece. Now we're going to do the piece that measures 5.5 by 11, and you should have 2 of those. So on these, what you're going to do is, before we start folding on our score lines, we want to take our scissors and we're going to go ahead and right here at our center score line is we want to make a little V, a little notch out of these right here on our 1/2" tabs, and same with this one down here. Okay. Do this to the other side as well. Make your little V's out here. Okay. And then you can go ahead and angle these. I usually don't like to do it till after I put my score tape on, but because of we have to fold them opposite directions, it's just easier to do it now. Okay, so let's go ahead and trim our other one, and then we'll do our folding. So again, right on our, we've got our, holding it this way, our first center score line, we're going to just notch a little V out like this. And same with this one. And flip it over and do the same thing. And I'm going to trim my little corners. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and fold on our score line. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have the large rectangle at the top, the medium one, and then the smallest one at the bottom. So the first thing I want to do is I want to flip it over and I want to fold that piece back. Okay. And then flip it back over. So I have flip it back over. So I folded it up. And now I'm going to go ahead and fold this piece back like this. Okay. So it looks like this. So basically you did a mountain valley fold. We have a mountain and a valley. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to fold these little tabs. They're going to go this way. Okay. And then these tabs are going to go this way. Like this. And then these larger tabs, we're going to fold them back. And again, you're going to want to use your bone folder. Get a really good crease. Now to create my pages in that particular book, I did use some basil cardstock. So don't use something that's really heavy, because the pages do get heavy. So use a lighter weight cardstock. So that's our first one. Let's go ahead and fold the other one exactly the same way. So again, we're going to go ahead and fold this piece up. Fold the little one back. Try to get it straight here. Fold these two tabs in. And then we're going to fold these tabs in. and these bigger tabs in. Okay, so we have those ready. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and open it up, and we can put our score tape on our tabs. So everywhere they're folded, you're going to add your score tape here. So we're adding score tape to these two larger tabs. We're going to open it up and add score tape to these two tabs. And then we're going to add score tape to these two tabs. Oopsie. Getting a little wild here. Okay. So now you can go ahead and make your pockets. I like to make my pockets first and then slide my paper in so it covers those little tabs up. You can do that with most of these, with the exception of when you go to add this on. And I'll explain why in just a second when we get ready. So go ahead and pull your tape backing off and make your little pockets. We're not going to pull these off yet because we need to add that to our page. So go ahead and do the same thing to this one. Add your tape and make your pockets. Okay, we have our two add-on pieces ready. So we have a pocket here and a pocket here, and we add it to our page, we will have a pocket here. Now, you have an option. You can either make a hinge and add it to the bottom if you want, or you can just run a bead of wet glue before you stick it down to your page. That's up to you. And I think in my book, I added a hinge, but I can't remember. Either way works. Just depends on how much space you want in there. So those pieces are done. Those are our add-ons. Now we're going to go ahead and do this piece. This piece that we're working on now is the 8.5 by 9, and that piece is actually forms this section of your page. Okay, so this one's pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to, oopsie, take and we're going to cut a V out of our little 1/2 inch one here. And then on this one, we are going to, so on the left side, we're going to make a V, and on the right side, we're going to take this tab all the way off, just up to that score line, and remove that. So we're going to just cut that right off, okay? So again, we're going to go ahead and fold this one back. And this one, we're going to fold this way. This one we're going to fold back because it's going to make that pocket. So these two are going to get folded back. This one's going to get folded in, and we've trimmed this one off. So now we're going to go ahead and fold this up right here like this. And then I folded my original one down and made like a little, so you can see the corner here. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, just so you get a visual of what it's going to look like. And I just eyeballed it. You can have a 1/2 inch, you can have a 1/4 inch, whatever you want. It's your book, you make it whatever way you want to, people. Okay, there we go. So that's our one add-on piece. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our pockets on this. So again, we're going to get our score tape. I'm going to keep putting mine on the opposite sides again. All right, score tape on this tab. Score tape on this tab. Flip it up. Score tape on this tab right here. And again, I'm going to go ahead and angle that just a little bit more because I want to make sure that it folds up nice. And I'm going to angle this top one too. Okay. Same with these. Okay. So now what we've got is we've got this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and fold this up and make this pocket. So I'm going to take this piece of tape off here, fold it up, and stick her down. Okay. So now we're going to take the base flap piece that has the hinge folded up. I'm going to attach this piece. We're going to open this up. And this bottom flap is going to close up our bottom pocket. And we're going to attach this to the inside like this. Okay. So there we go. So this is going to be, we're going to add that on. This is going to be our flap. We're going to flip it up. And then here, we're going to attach, we're going to add score tape here to this flap. It's folded up. The one that's folded back is going to go on the back of the page. Okay. So we're going to put that like, oops, and I wanted to angle my corners. Hello. Now we'll do it now. Might get my old scissors all goopy. They're supposed to be Teflon. We'll see if they really are. I can't buy my Timmy ones, my short Timmy ones. I don't know what I did with them. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece and we are going to fold this up and we're going to add this. This is the tricky part, people. Let's take this tape backing off too. Let's just remove it all and see if we can really have fun with it. All right. Maybe if we turn it this way. So I'm going to slip that right in there and I'm going to add that right to that page. And same with this one. Success. Okay. There we go. Now with this, in my original book, I just, when I put my paper down here first and then I put a little dab of wet glue and just glued it down. Okay. So we have our pocket here. We have our pocket here and this is our flap. So now what we want to do is we are going to take this piece and this is going to go on here. But before we do, this is where I had issues with this being too close, so that kind of, see how it's kind of bent a little bit there? Oh, not happy with that. So you can put this piece in your trimmer and you can trim 1/8 of an inch off, 1/4 of an inch off. I'm going to just wing it because I didn't get my paper trimmer out. So I'm just going to like pretend I'm using my paper trimmer. And I'm just going to trim this a little bit like this. Okay, that way, well, hopefully it'll be straighter than that when you use your paper trimmer. That way it won't interfere with the binding. Okay, just flat. So there we go. There's that page, the front of our piece. And now what you can do, you need to put your design paper on here before you add this piece because you have all this extra here. So you won't be able to slide it in because you've got, you need to put your paper on. Now what I would do is you can put it right up against the edge, which we'd see more of the design paper here, which I think in my book, I just left like a 1/4 inch border, so I kind of centered it so I had the same even amount of space all the way around, but you can do it however you want. So again, put your design paper on here first, and then you'll go ahead and put this piece on like this. So your binding's over here on the left. You want your pockets, your larger pocket to go this way so it doesn't interfere with your book. So we're going to go ahead and just, again, we're going to pretend I have my paper here, and you can add your wet glue down there if you want, or your little hinge, whichever you prefer. And I'm going to stick it down right there. Okay, so that's our first page. So we have our yumminess right here. We have a large space for photo here. We have a large pocket back here. We have a pocket here. And now we're going to flip our page over, and we're going to make the same thing. So we're going to take that other piece that had the flap, fold it up, and we're going to add this right here, okay, to make our other flap. But again, I don't want to interfere with my binding, so I'm going to turn this piece off a little bit. And again, you would use your paper trimmer. And you don't have to do this, but I just think it'll make the pages open and close a little bit better. So I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch maybe. I guess that's what it is. Hey, I kept that pretty straight, not bad. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add this piece to the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and put our score tape on our flap in the folded position. Right like this. We're going to burnish our tape, angle our corners, and here we go. So this is the bottom of our page, and we're going to stick this to the bottom. So it should line up pretty good like this, okay? So now what that does is we're going to go ahead, and this is where that little hinge is going to come in. We need to close the top of our page up. So because what we want is we want a pocket here, which is, see what I mean, is this. Now, you don't have to have your tags stick out if you don't want to. If you want your tags to go all the way in, you can use your circle punch or your notch punch or something and just cut a little thumb hole right here if you don't want your tags to stick out. I kind of did. That's why I made my covers a little bit larger. But if you don't want to do that, before you put your hinge in, this would be the time where you would take your circle punch and open this flap up and do a half circle right there, okay? But we're just going to do it the way I did mine. But again, it's your book. You can do it however you want. We're going to go ahead and put our tape on both sides of this little hinge that we made. And again, that's what I just keep them whatever length they are, and then I cut them to what I need. So again, this is going to go right here, and we're going to stick this in here so we can make a pocket here. So we're going to go ahead and line this up. I'm going to angle these little puppies because I want to make sure they fit. So we're going to put one side down first, and I'm going to flip it around to me this way so I can see it without getting my head in the camera, because my husband always hollers at me when I get my head in the camera. And we're going to stick it down. And I'm okay with it if it doesn't go all the way to the edge. It's not that big of a deal for me. But if that's going to freak you out, then make your hinge longer. Then go ahead and pull this off. And pull this up. But before we do, I got my mistake. Again, we want to go ahead and either add another hinge or run a bead of wet glue. Again, that's going to be your choice because we need to seal the bottom of this pocket up here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and either use a hinge or a wet glue and add that to the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and stick that down. Okay. So now we've closed everything up. We have to add this piece. Now, on this one, because it's on the other side, it's on the back of the page. Again, what I want to do is I want to put my largest pockets coming out from this side instead of this side, because there's not a lot of space there. So just remember that when you go to put your add-on piece on. Again, you put your design paper on first. So the piece that we trimmed off is where you want to put the bottom of your pocket. Add your design paper first. Either use a hinge or you can use your wet glue. Put that in there. Take the backing off. And I'm going to turn it this way so I can try to center it. And again, you can put it wherever you want, either all the way to the edge, or you can center it so you have equal spacing from the bottom and the two sides. Stick it down. Okay. So now this flips up, and now we need to add the little piece that's going to sit on our binding hinge, and that's this piece right here. And it's pretty simple. You just angle your corners. Again, I'm going to open that flap up, and I'm going to just add this to the bottom of my page so I can slip my hinge in there. And there we go. That's how you make the pages. So let me get the book out so you can see what we did. See, sometimes I know what I'm doing. It took me a while to figure this puppy out, but I just really like that style with all the pockets, but I wanted it bigger. Okay, so we're going to open our book up, and we've got right here, these are all of our little pockets right here, and then large pocket here, and I just used, again, the 4x6 cards, so that's why I didn't give you any measurements for tags. You can just stick your ruler in there and measure them. So we have this flap here, and then we flip it up. We have a place for a photo there and a photo there, and then we have this pocket mechanism here. We have a pocket here and a large pocket back here. I can give you this if you want, unless you want to do something different, but these measure 7 by 4 3/4 because you don't want them to interfere with your hinge, so you need to make them a little bit smaller. And then I just stuck odds and ends in these little things, little cuts, but you could make larger photo mats as well for that. So we did that, and then we flip our page right here, and we have again the pocket mechanism right here with the large tag there, so it's right here and right here, and then this flips up, place for a photo here. And then we have our large pocket here, right here, and this is what's going to go on our binding right here. That's where my page is attached. And then we have our large pocket back here, which is right back here. Okay, so you'll need 3 of those. So there you go, everybody. That's the quick tutorial. Probably wasn't so quick, but on how I made the pages in my super extra large graphic 45 Safari Adventure mini album. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Bye.